My understanding of soul bonds has been completely overturned. I thought it would be a straightforward process, but reality is much more complex. My relationship with my soul bond is filled with misunderstandings and prejudices, yet I also see hope and potential beauty. Chapter 15. Upon returning home, Hunter found himself unable to face his parents, who were seated at the dining table. He trudged past them, his gaze fixed on the floor, hoping to avoid their notice as he retreated to his room. The weight of his conflicting emotions and the secret he carried made it difficult to engage with them. 𝐿𝐴nthony and Margot exchanged worried glances, their parental concern evident in their shared expression. They were eager to uncover the source of their son's distress, sensing that something significant had occurred. As Hunter collapsed onto his bed, the sound of knocking interrupted his brooding thoughts. "Hey, do you want any food?" 𝐿𝐴nthony's voice called through the door. Hunter's mind was consumed with thoughts of Jacob, his newfound soulmate. He longed to call him, to hear his voice and talk for hours. "No, go away. Don't go away," he replied, turning to face the wall. 𝐿𝐴nthony, recognizing that his son's refusal of food was a clear sign of distress, persisted. "I'm going to open your door. Don't freak out. I won't actually enter." Hunter remained motionless as the door creaked open. Margot peered into the room, and both parents observed their sons dejected from on the bed. "Hunter, honey, why are you feeling so down?" Margot's voice was gentle and soothing, a stark contrast to the turmoil in Hunter's mind. The urge to confide in his parents warred with his fear of rejection. Hunter struggled with the weight of his secret, knowing that keeping it was causing him more anguish. "Shut my door and leave me alone, please," he requested, his voice laden with sadness. 𝐿𝐴nthony, frustrated by his son's reticence, decided to take action. In a move that violated werewolf etiquette, he stepped into Hunter's room. Hunter whirled around as Margot gasped, tugging at 𝐿𝐴nthony's arm. "Get out of his room. You can't. What are you keeping from us? Are you in trouble? You have to tell me," 𝐿𝐴nthony demanded, his concern overriding his respect for Hunter's privacy. Hunter's gray eyes dark and ominously, reminiscent of storm clouds. A low growl escaped his throat as he glared at his father. "How dare you?" he whispered, his voice laced with a mixture of anger and hurt. Margot continued to pull at 𝐿𝐴nthony's arm, but he stood his ground, determined to uncover the truth behind his son's distress. "How dare I? You're keeping secrets from your own family. Why have you lost your loyalty and respect? Get out." Hunter's hairs were standing on end. He couldn't cope. Someone was in his territory. It didn't matter if it was his dad. It was totally unacceptable. "Not until you tell me what's going on with you." Hunter clenched his fists and moved like a wolf, stalking its prey. He growled again, causing Margot to dig her nails into her husband's wrist. "Get out of his room," she hissed. "I can't believe you're doing this to him." 𝐿𝐴nthony knew that if his son stepped into their room like this, he would have slapped him and pushed him back out. Hunter wasn't going to let him stand there much longer, but being in his room was proving to cause more problems, so he rolled his eyes and stepped back. Hunter immediately relaxed and took a breath. "Why the hell would you do that to me?" he yelled. "I was so close to losing my temper. I'm sorry." Hunter, his dad crossed his arms. "That wasn't my intentions, but I just need to know what's going on with you." "We'll find out sooner or later." His son stormed up to the door and grabbed the handle. "I'll tell you when I'm ready. Now leave me alone." He slammed the door in their faces. Wait. So there definitely is something going on," 𝐿𝐴nthony yelled, but was silenced by Margot, who pulled him away. She was going to have a long talk with him about how appalled she was. He couldn't just enter Hunter's territory. It was completely out of order. Hunter turned and collapsed back onto his bed. He was glad that he managed to keep back his aggressive streak. "Will you stop being so angry? I'm trying to sleep." His heart sped up when Jacob's sweet voice invaded his thoughts when they spoke directly to one another. It was much louder. "I'm sorry. I'll go to bed so you can rest." "It's fine. But you got really angry and it worried me. I don't like feeling that. Hunter pulled off his shirt and his trousers. He threw them into the corner of his room and face-planted his bed. I just had an argument with my parents. I don't know if I can block out my feelings or not. I'll try. Jacob was lying in bed with his shirt off and his pajama bottoms on. He had his duvet pulled up to his chin. He could Hunter's thoughts and knew why he had an argument, but he didn't understand. Why is territory such a big issue? If he was going to get to know him more, he might as well question things that confuse him. Well, you know how male cats and dogs pee on things and rub themselves off things to mark their scent or whatever. Yes, it's like that for us too. A dog has a dog bed. We have our rooms. Jacob turned on his side and thought with interest. What else is your territory? Hunter liked that he was interested. My pack. Our land. My mate. Jacob's heart thumped hard. In your territory. Why is that a surprise to you? Hunter smiled. Jacob wasn't sure how he felt about that. Deep down, he thought he could feel a stir of excitement, but he wasn't sure why. I don't know. It's a bit weird. Are you going to pee on me? No, Hunter laughed out loud and just like that. His mood was lifted. And it's not weird. You'll understand why when you know more about me. I'm very territorial about what's mine. Jacob laid on his back and bit his bottom lip. Of wits. Yours. Hunter also laid on his back, smiling to himself. In his eyes, Jacob was his, nobody else's. But he didn't want to say that to him, not until he was ready to accept it. It's a wolf thing. Jacob very nearly smiled but stopped himself when he remembered his current situation. He shouldn't be enjoying talking to a voice in his head. So Hunter thought and traced his own chest with his fingers. It did feel unusual to have someone else's or a share in his own. How are you coping? Are you hurting yet? They had only been apart for a few hours, and Jacob was starting to get a headache and his chest felt heavy and clogged like he was on the verge of sickness. No, I need to sleep before it does. Good idea. Night, Jacob. I'll see you tomorrow. Hunter didn't want to stop talking to him, but at least he could see him in person in the morning. Jacob rubbed his eyes and turned over to bury his head into his pillow. It was definitely going to be a challenge to sleep. When morning time came, the boys had slept better than usual, especially Jacob. It was the first time in a while that his mom had to actually wake him up instead of him pretending to sleep. Jacob, sweetie, she said softly and aggressively shook his shoulder. He had slept through William getting woken up, who was stood with his dad, watching. It's time to get up. Jacob lightly groaned and rolled onto his stomach. He wasn't ready to be woken up. He was having a really nice dream about Hunter. Although he was still half asleep and that thought wasn't as weird as what it should be. Come on. You'll be late for college. This managed to pull him out of his dream and he peeled open his eyes. His mother was leaning close with a frown, hiding her annoyance from Scott and William. It's nice to see you sleeping in for once, but you're a pain to wake up. She chuckled. Her voice was soft but her eyes were sharp. Get out of bed, please. Breakfast is almost ready. The first thing Jacob felt was the unbearable aching in his chest. He sat up and frowned when his head throbbed as if he was repeatedly hitting it against the wall. Don't worry. They'll wait outside college for you. It should go as soon as we meet. The voice, for once, felt very comforting. Scott watched his son with steady eyes. Are you feeling okay today? He asked. Jacob stood up and took a deep breath. Yes. Scott studied him for a moment longer before following his wife downstairs. When Scott pulled up outside of college, Jacob practically jumped out of the car. He couldn't wait to get rid of the aching in his chest. He didn't even wait for William. He just hurried off. I'm in the bathroom on the first floor. It's empty. Jacob immediately headed there while William and Scott watched with a quizzical raise of the brow. Usually, Jacob slumped into college because he didn't want to be there. HES acting different today, Scott said, softly rubbing his chin, and watched William open the door. It's because HES not feeling so depressed. He actually slept for once. William shut the door and headed for his group of friends. Stott sat for a moment longer, tapping his cheek before checking the time and pulling out of the car park. Of course, he would try to call Jacob later to check up on him. When Jacob reached the bathroom, he glanced around with caution. Just like Hunter said, it was empty, but when his eyes caught sight of him, his heart almost skipped a beat. Something about the color of Hunter's eyes gripped his entire attention. They were the color of storms, and Jacob loved storms. Hunter smiled and started walking towards him, but Jacob practically ran into him and flung his arms around his waist. Hunter was stunned. He really didn't expect him to be so eager. Jacob clung to the back of his shirt and begged for the ink to go away. Hunter took the opportunity to hug him back. They both needed it, and Hunter wasn't sure when Jacob would next let their skin touch, so he had to cherish their embrace like it would be their last. "How has your morning been?" he asked when he felt back to normal. He had a very bad headache this morning too. "Okay." Jacob took a deep breath. It felt nice not to be restricted by pain. Though, it dawned on him that he was hugging Hunter, or rather, squeezing him like his life depended on it. He quickly pulled away with wide eyes that watched him nervously. "It's fine." Hunter smiled. "You can hug me anytime you like or anytime you need to." Jacob's cheeks went a little pink as he pulled on his bag straps. "How was your morning?" "It was okay too. I was just really desperate to see you. It's not easy waking up and feeling like that." I know, it hurt." Hunter focused intently on his face. "Are you getting used to this?" "Slowly, I think." "That's good. Hopefully, by the end of the week, you'll feel much better." Hunter hoped it would be sooner. The last thing he wanted was to rush Jacob and cause a breakdown. "Hopefully," he whispered and dared to look him in the eyes. The affection kicked Jacob in the chest. Hunter was so attractive and his spine shivered just from a simple glance. The dream he had of him popped into his head. He dreamt that Hunter slept next to him all night. In his dream, his arms were around him and they were cuddling without a care in the world. He felt wanted, relaxed, and at ease with his life. And then he woke up and felt disappointed that he was there. "I had the same dream." Jacob sighed and dropped his gaze. "Will you please stop reading did you?" "Yes," Hunter smiled. "I was also disappointed when I woke up alone." Jacob liked that they felt the same, but it was weird that they had the same dream. Is that normal? To have the same dreams? Probably. Hunter really didn't know. "Why do you not know much about this?" Jacob asked quietly. "You're either well. Don't say it out loud." Hunter interrupted with a tone of urgency. "Oh, sorry. It's fine." He smiled and stepped closer. "But I never asked my parents about it when I found you because they don't know my mate is male. Are you worried about telling them?" "I am." "Yes, me too. Do you think they'll accept you for being gay?" "I really hope so." Jacob was getting nervous just thinking about it. "What about yours?" "I honestly don't know." They made eye contact and it felt nice to have someone to talk to about their troubles. They knew they would never be judged because they were both in the same position. "Come on then." Hunter smiled and lightly nudged his shoulder. "We better not be late for our classes." Chapter 16. Hunter watched Jacob enter his class, leaving him standing in the hallway. He walked him to class because he would do anything to stay with him, even if it was just a few extra minutes. You know, Sam said, making Hunter turn quickly. He was so focused on his mate that he didn't smell his presence. "You missed the pack meeting last night." Hunter could tell nobody was too bothered. He connected with his mate and that was more important. "Well, Ray, schedule. We don't mind missing out on a few for you to be with your mate." Sam smiled and followed his alpha down the corridor. "How's it going, by the way?" "It could be better." Hunter sighed and crossed his arms. "Jacob's finding this difficult. But that's what you expected, isn't it?" "Yes. I just didn't think it would hurt so much when he thinks about how I've ruined him." Sam stopped, making his alpha stop too. "He'll forgive you." I know, but I forced this onto him. I feel like Ivy made things worse." "You haven't, alpha," Sam smiled with respect. Things can only get better for him from now on. He'll never feel lonely again. He'll always know hes loved, and it'll add excitement into his life. This will bring out the person he lost when you were stuck in his head for half a year. It might take time, but it'll be worth it for what you both get out of it. Sam never knew if he stepped over the line or not. Giving his alpha advice was risky. Hunter often accepted it from Sam because he was right most of the time, and they were as close as brothers. It was normal to value the other's opinion. He pushed me away and I can't handle it. But I suppose you're right. It'll be worth it in the end. Sam nodded, and their conversation was quickly interrupted by the bell, indicating that they were late for their class. Jacob was relieved to finish his college day. Even though his day was not long and he was only in for 4 hours, the amount of coursework they get in return was not forgiving. He left the class looking thankful that it ended. Even though things with Hunter were sketchy, Jacob still wanted to see him because his chest felt tight. They hadn't processed that he'd need to grow closer to him in order to understand their connection and how it would make him feel. In waiting outside the main entrance for, Jacob didn't have time to listen because he tripped over something and landed hard on the floor. He quickly turned to see someone leaning against the wall with a smirk. It was Brad. Jacob didn't know his name, and he didn't know he was part of Hunter's pack. The freak can't even watch where hes going. Brad sighed with cold eyes. How did Hunter end up with a disaster like you? Jacob frowned and his heart sped up. What did he just say? Suddenly, a hand flashed from the side and slapped Brad across the head. He stumbled a bit and tried to retaliate. Hunter's not going to be happy with you. Brad glared when he realized it was Sam, the Alpha's second in command. Jacob had no idea who both of them or how they knew about him and Hunter. I don't care. His mate is what? Sam growled. A human. A male. Get a grip and just accept it. They both then looked down to who was still sitting on the floor. What's going on? Hunter's voice was vibrant in his mind. 𝐿𝐤𝐳. Sam held out a hand to his Alpha's mate and helped him to his feet. Sorry about him. Hunter will have him trained in no time. Sam shot daggers in his direction. And sorry for the confusion. We're members of Hunter's pack. I'm Sam and this is Brad. Jacob didn't know what to think about first. The fact that he was looking at more werewolves, or the fact that Brad, the bully, was a member of the pack. I know, that'll wit. Sam sighed. I don't want him on it either. Brad pushed himself off the wall with a scowl. You can't. Shut up and stop whining. Sam rolled his eyes before holding Jacob's shoulder and leading him down the corridor. Jacob was too stunned to do anything but let him. Don't worry. I'm just taking you to Hunter. Hunter was pacing outside the doors. Something was going on, and it included his pack members because he could hear Jacob thinking about it. His thoughts were unusual due to the fact that he spent most of his time daydreaming. Jacob could change subjects very fast. Suddenly, Sam appeared out of the sliding glass doors, followed by Jacob and a sulking Brad. Hunter locked eyes with his mate and walked over. Jacob secretly liked the rush and the excitement of his heart when he saw him. It made him feel warm inside, and he really did want to hug him again. What has gotten into me? He thought to himself. He was 100% not a hugger. He found physical contact awkward and uncomfortable. But now, that's all he wanted. If you want one, have one. Hunter smiled and didn't give him a chance to step away as he wrapped an arm around his waist and an arm around his shoulders. He held him firmly against him, allowing the tightness in their bodies to relax. Jake bowed down almost instantly. He seemed to forget everything around him and enjoyed the comfort, even though he barely hugged back. He had forgotten that the day was Thursday and his dad usually picks him up after college because he finished work early. Scott was currently sitting in his car, watching his son share an embrace with someone else. Sam felt proud and happy for his alpha to have found his mate. He was looking forwards to getting to know Jacob more too. Oh, by the way, Sam spoke and glanced at Brad with a look that said, hes going to kill you. Brad pushed Jacob over and called him a freak. Hunter's eyes opened and his body tensed against his mate. He pulled back from Jacob, who watched his expression. He looked very, very angry. His eyes were burning a ferocious storm, and thankful it was him he was looking at like that. Hunter suddenly stepped forwards and grabbed Brad by the collar of his T-shirt. He turned and slammed him against the wall. "How dare you touch him?" he growled deeply. His eyes were piercing Brad's face, who regretted his actions. Jacob was watching with wide eyes. Even though Brad was getting what he deserved, there was something about Hunter's anger that leaked immense dominance. He was clearly a strict leader, and Jacob wondered if he'd ever be like that with him. Never, Hunter thought. "You're my mate. I would never display my anger onto you like this." Jacob felt that he meant it. Hunter then lifted a hand and smacked Brad across the face. Jacob gasped, and Sam watched on like he had seen it a million times before. "You need to know your place," Hunter muttered with those angry gray eyes. "I'm not done with you." Hunter let go of his T-shirt and turned to check on his mate. "Are you okay?" Jacob nodded. He was completely fine, but seeing Hunter hit Brad shocked him in an uncomfortable way. Hunter placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. He hated that a member of his pack was bullying him. Brad was scarily close to losing his spot as the Delta Wolf. If he even dares to do it again. "You have to tell me." Jacob glanced at Brad, who rubbed his red cheek and stared pitifully at the floor. He nodded and chewed on his bottom lip. Hunter stood up straighter, feeling a little more satisfied. "Would you like to meet the rest of my pack?" he suggested. "It's okay if you don't, because I know you need time." Jacob hummed quietly with thought. Sam seemed friendly, and Brad was definitely someone to stay away from. He was worried that maybe the rest didn't want him to be involved with Hunter too. "It doesn't matter what they think," Hunter said out loud after listening to his thoughts. "You're my mate, and I wouldn't have it any other way. If they disagree, then they can find another pack." He glared at Brad, who crossed his arms and sulked harder. "I think I need more time," Jacob said quietly. He was ready for more people to be introduced into his life. "That's fine." Hunter smiled a dazzling smile, and Jacob almost melted to the ground. "But what would you like to do now?" Hunter could tell that they were both not ready to go their separate ways just yet. Jacob was sure what he should do. He couldn't leave Hunter. He hated the pain his body received when they were not together. "You can come back to mine if you want, and we can just chill out and get to know each other. My parents are out until late, so you don't have to meet them," Hunter suggested. Jacob obviously had nowhere else to be and nobody else to hang out with. Okay. He needed to know more about Hunter. It had finally dawned on him that he won't suddenly wake up and find that it was all a dream. "Do you need to phone your parents or anyone to tell them where you're going?" Hunter asked while they started walking. "Oh," Jacob mumbled and pulled his phone out of his pocket. He rang his dad, who picked up almost immediately. "Hey, son." "Hi," Jacob said quietly, and Hunter understood that he had to lie. He couldn't just say that he was going to Hunter's house. Although they were not aware that Scott was watching him from the car park. "I'm staying in college to do work, so I'll just walk home later." There was a pause on the phone as Scott watched his son walk away from college. He knew he had just blatantly lied. Scott narrowed his eyes but kept his voice calm. "That's fine. Would you like me to pick you up later?" "No, it's okay." "Okay. Text me when you're on your way home. Don't work yourself too hard." "Bye, Dad." Scott listened as his son hung up the phone, just as William threw himself into the seat next to him and melted into it. "I hate Thursdays." He sighed and turned to put his belt on. "Good day?" Scott asked, with eyes still pointing in the direction of the trees. "It was so boring." Will chuckled and glanced at the back seat. "Where's Jacob?" He said he's staying in college for longer to do some work. He must be behind on something. William shrugged and started messing around with the radio. Scott thought back to when he saw his son exit college. He had watched how he walked up to Hunter and they hugged. He had also watched as Hunter effortlessly hit someone, and he really didn't like that. "Just a question." He started to drive out of the car park. "Are Jacob and Hunter good friends?" Jacob would never voluntarily hug anyone. "No, they only met for the first time on Monday." William watched his dad's face. He had a thoughtful frown. "Why, no reason." William then found a song he liked and they settled into comfortable silence. Scott was deep in thought. Chapter 17. Jacob's eyes traced the house in front of him. It was a small sort of cabin with wooden steps and a wooden wraparound porch. It looked old and sat at the beginning of a huge field. It had taken him and Hunter a few hours to walk to the cabin, and they were in the woods for most of the way. "Welcome to my home." Hunter stared at Jacob. He was excited to have his mate in his territory. When Hunter entered Jacob's room for the first time, he immediately wanted to lay on his bed and cover it with his scent. It hurt Hunter to have to resist. It was an exciting time for any werewolf to mingle their scents with a mate. Hunter led Jacob up the creaky steps and unlocked the door. The wooden theme followed its way into the big kitchen and living area. It was small because it was only a studio. Though, it was incredibly homely. Jacob found himself looking around. It was lived in and rather cluttered, but everything had its own place. Before Jacob stepped any further, he took off his shoes and placed them neatly out of the way. "You don't have to do that. It's fine." Hunter continued to watch as Jacob quietly hung his bag and his jacket up next to his father's coats and his mother's scarves. He noticed how Jacob was a little tense. Introducing the human to a new place was the type of situation to spark his anxiety. "You can make yourself at home, Jacob." Jacob tried to suppress an odd emotion which was building up inside of him. The way he said his name fuzzed at his senses and his chest felt a burst of warmth. Jacob slowly walked closer. He was wringing his hands and his eyes were completely avoiding Hunter's beautiful gray ones. The werewolf could only watch, a little unsure on how to calm him. "Would you like any food?" Sam and Brad went home to give them time to be together. Hunter was still irritated about Brad's behavior. Nobody was allowed to touch his mate, especially with hurtful intentions. He wanted to hurt his Delta wolf in return until he begged for forgiveness. But his parents raised him better than that. He had to put those thoughts to the back of his mind and concentrate on making Jacob feel welcome in his home. "Don't worry, I'm making some too." Hunter smiled and headed in the direction of the kitchen. "Okay." Jacob chewed on his bottom lip and shuffled a little closer. The more nervous he felt, the more his body was freezing on one spot like he was turning to stone. Hunter could feel it. He wondered what it must be like to live in such a way that affects someone's state of mind. He glanced at Jacob, who was trying to encourage himself to walk over, but he seemed paralyzed by his own nerves. Hunter stopped what he was doing and listened to his thoughts. "Stop being so pathetic," Jacob muttered to himself. "Why do you always have to get like this?" Hunter quietly approached him. He knew the struggles Jacob faced in his everyday life. The human was fine most days, but new things really seemed to break him down. When Hunter was only a foot away from him, he lifted a warm hand and placed it on his mate's shoulder. Jacob diverted his gaze to the floor and tensed. It only lasted for a few seconds. He was forced to relax because he enjoyed Hunter's touch too much. "You want a hug, don't you?" Hunter's sparkling eyes watched Jacob frown and attempt to step back. He didn't give him the chance and pulled him closer. "I don't." Hunter wrapped his arms around him as Jacob placed his hands on his chest to push him away, but now, with Hunter's strength, his arms were trapped like that and his body was pushed firmly against his. "I don't want to hug you. We both know that's a lie," Hunter said softly. "You're stressing yourself out. I can help." Jacob stood still while Hunter stared deep into his chocolate eyes. "Just relax. I told you if you need a hug, just ask." Deep down, Jacob wanted the hug. Of course he did. There were strong emotions pulsing through him, not to mention Hunter's feelings, and he was openly stronger. Hunter was good at allowing all his affection to flow freely. "It feels too fast," Jacob whispered. "It's just a hug. I don't like hugging people." Jacob used his force to push Hunter back. He was strong too and very able to stick up for himself. If only he carried more confidence to do so more often. "With me it's different. Who are you trying to convince otherwise? You're just going to struggle if you block it out. Why is it so hard to accept?" Hunter hated how he had been physically pushed away. It hurt more than he was letting on. "Because it's not normal," Jacob said with a little more hostility to his voice. "This situation, it's not right. You're not supposed to exist." Hunter crossed his arms. But we do. I've shown you. And you expect me to just get over it within a day. No, but I'm going home. Jacob didn't want to be in this situation. He didn't want werewolves to exist. He didn't want to be someone's mate. He didn't want to be around anyone right now. As he turned, Hunter quickly stepped forwards and grabbed his wrist. Don't leave. Please. He begged. I know you need time. It's hard for me to take because I didn't prepare for you to not accept me. I thought the bond would bring us much closer. It has. Jacob yanked his wrist back and turned with watery eyes. That's what's freaking me out. Hunter sighed and allowed his heart to deflate at seeing him so panicked. You need to tell me this out loud. It feels intrusive listening to only your thoughts that you don't want me to hear. You need to be truthful and tell me everything you feel. If it's going too fast, we can talk about it. I've lived in your head for half a year. I know that you're freaking out, but I know that you'll keep it hidden and try to get through it by yourself. Hunter had stepped closer as Jacob listened. We're in this together now. You can't burden me with your issues because I already know them all. Jacob was used to being around someone who understood him. Not even his parents knew him like Hunter did. And he didn't know if it was a breath of fresh air or a warning sign. But then again, he had searched for half a year to find someone who could help him, and that person seemed to be standing right in front of him. He'd be a fool to push him away now. It's just hard. He mumbled and started to fidgeting with his fingers. I'm not good with, communicating. Hunter smiled. I know. You're so quiet. Even I sometimes struggle to hear you. When you're not heated about something, you say barely anything. But that's okay because I don't mind. It's cute. I'm sure I've told you multiple times before we even connected the bond. Jacob's cheeks flushed red. It's not cute. It really is. Hunter stepped close enough to rest a hand on his shoulder again. And I know you're not fond of contact, but in all honesty, I'm going to be quite physically affectionate with you. I like hugs and I like to just feel that you're either, so I'm afraid it'll be something you'll just have to get used to. Jacob really liked his touch, but he wasn't ready to accept it. He was so used to hating everyone else's. Or maybe he was just too shy and awkward to do anything about it. I don't have to get used to anything, he whispered with a little frown. Hunter's dominance was something he'd have to start picking apart. Don't force hugs. Let me take my time. After a moment, Hunter said, All right. He squeezed Jacob's shoulder, surprised by his clear instructions, but knowing that deep down, he was sure when his controlling behavior was too much for a human. I'll give you time. Hunter studied his big cocoa-colored eyes. He could stare at them forever. They were mesmerizing, especially when they were caught by the sun. So how about that food? The corners of Jacob's mouth twitched towards a smile. That was enough for Hunter to feel sad as he led him to the table and pulled out a chair for him to sit on. Jacob felt more relaxed while Hunter fiddled with the radio. I hope you like popular stuff. Hunter chuckled and glanced over his shoulder. Jacob's eyebrows furrowed slightly, rejecting his taste in music. You don't. Jacob shook his head. Oh, what music are you into? Jacob shrugged. But Hunter read his mind. Indie and alternative stuff, huh? He smiled that dazzling smile. Jacob cursed at himself for looking because he found it hard to look away. You'll have to let me listen sometime. But for today, I'll try and not torture you with my singing and poor taste in music. Hunter turned his back on him, so he could continue to find the right radio station. While he was looking, Jacob revealed the tiniest smile. He did appreciate how kind and welcoming Hunter was trying to be. The werewolf did do a good job at making his mate feel a little more comfortable, but it was his dominant side that Jacob needed to talk about. Hunter was demanding and forward with his words and actions. Though, clenching in the back of Jacob's mind, he knew that eventually it wouldn't be a problem. Chapter 18. So, this is my room. Hunter tried to keep back his excitement as Jacob stood in his doorway. His mate hadn't yet entered his room. This was the first time in Hunter's life that he was willingly letting someone into his territory. Of course, his dad pushed the limit and forces it. But this was different. Hunter wanted Jacob to enter, and to mix their scents. He wanted to smell him when he goes to sleep. He couldn't wait to share it. Is it really that exciting for you? Jacob questioned in his head and looked around the small room. It was messy, but it was tidy. There were a few things on the floor, and Hunter didn't look like he owned a lot of belongings. But the double bed that he did own looked incredibly comfortable. Yes, Hunter spoke out loud and watched his feet. It's a big thing for me. I want you to come in. Ivy never felt that before. Jacob watched his eyes. They were bright and eager. When Hunter looked up to him, he quickly diverted his gaze. Are you sure it's okay? He questioned. He knew how angry he got at his dad for entering. It's more than okay. Hunter smiled. His eyes quickly diverted back to his feet. I'm inviting you into my room. Jacob waited a second. He could see how determined Hunter was to share his territory, so he lifted his foot and stepped through the doorway. Hunter watched his feet so intensely, like a dog waiting for its owner to throw a stick. Jacob's feet had crossed from the wooden floor onto the dark brown carpet. Hunter exploded with delight and was unable to keep back his wolf form. Jacob had only just relaxed in his home until Hunter's sure tripped and a huge white wolf was suddenly standing right in front of him. Jacob gasped and fell against the wall. His eyes were wide with fear, even standing. The wolf's head was at his waist and filled up a lot of the floor space. Hunter froze, seeing and feeling his mate's sudden change in emotion. Don't worry, it's only me. His voice echoed soothingly in his mate's mind. 𝐊𝐧𝐬𝐬. Jacob watched him sit on his back legs. Hunter was panting slightly from the buildup of excitement. Keep back. You're huge, Jacob whispered. I know I'm big, but don't let it overwhelm you. There's nothing to be afraid of. Jacob's big eyes traced his soft fur and his ears that curled at the top. The wolf's eyes were the same gray color, showing only composure. It'll take me a moment to calm down. I'm still excited. Hunter very rarely lost control. The last time was when he was just a young child and his parents had gone away for a few weeks. He missed them more than what he realized because when they came back, they spent hours trying to calm him down enough for him to change into a human. He was just a little pup. Jacob's back pressed hard against the wall. He knew the wolf was Hunter. It just shocked him when he changed so fast. Just as quickly as Hunter transformed into a wolf, he was promptly kneeling on the floor as a human once again. He glanced up and Jacob looked even more startled. Maybe even too much. Jacob couldn't explain why, but his legs buckled. Hunter quickly stood up as Jacob fell forward. He wrapped his arms around him and caught him against his body. Okay, take it easy. He soothed while Jacob gripped onto him. Let's sit you down. Hunter guided him to his bed and helped him take a seat. Jacob breathed deeply. How did he manage to be so calm when Hunter transformed in the field? The werewolf placed a hand on his back and rubbed it gently. He watched Jacob close his eyes and rest his head in his hands. There's nothing to be embarrassed about. Hunter was trying to keep his composure, but his mate was sitting on his bed, mingling their scents. It's totally normal for you to feel this way. Jacob nodded and peeked at Hunter, who was sitting close. He had no T-shirt on and Jacob's eyes stared at his tanned and muscular body with burning cheeks. Hunter smiled. Jacob was so innocent. Sorry. He'll put a T-shirt on. As he turned to grab one from the floor, Jacob rested his hand on his arm and Hunter froze. His mate's touch. It was so delicate. He turned and stared at his fingers brushing against his skin. Jacob whispered. Can you change back into a wolf? Hunter questioned and sat up straight. Jacob nodded and quickly took his hand back. Are you sure? I need to get used to it. Hunter's eyes softened and he really had to fight the urge to kiss him. Okay. He stood up from the bed. Are you ready? Jacob nodded once more and pulled his sleeves over his hands. Hunter then relaxed and thought about being in his wolf form. The transformation was effortless and easy to do. 1 second he was human, the next he was a wolf. This time, Jacob knew it was coming, even though his heart sped up unbelievably fast and his mind felt numb. He was going to get overwhelmed. Hunter sat on his back legs and watched him with caution. Jacob seemed to be coping better with a steady stare. "Would you like to stroke me?" Jacob chewed on his bottom lip when Hunter moved his face closer and rested a chin on his knee. "I would like if you stroked me." Slowly, Jacob lifted a hand and traced the fur on his head with his fingers. It was so soft and warm, just like last time. Jacob felt like he was dreaming, and it was one of those dreams where he didn't want it to wake up. Hunter's tail wagged excitedly as he lifted his head. "Why do you have white fur?" Jacob questioned. Hunter's human form had dark hair, so that was what he expected to see. "A white wolf is an alpha wolf." Jacob nodded, showing that he understood. There was still a lot for him to know. He knew 𝐴𝐺 learn with time. Your eyes are the same color. The eyes channel a path to the soul of the human and wolf. Hunter then lifted his big paws and placed them on either side of Jacob. He pushed himself up so he towered above him. Jacob gasped as the wolf forced him to fall back against the bed. Jacob had a moment of panic until the wolf licked his cheek. The human scrunched his eyes shut and covered his face as Hunter attempted to put his hands away with his nose. Jacob was stopped when the wolf flicked over his face once more. "Hunter, get off." Hunter pulled his head back to see Jacob's bright eyes and gorgeous smile that he loved so much. He knew that would help calm him. "Sorry, I called and helped myself." Jacob rubbed his face with his sleeve while the wolf jumped to the floor. His tail wagged and he panted with excitement. Hunter's wolf trait shined a lot more when he was in this form. "It's fine." Jacob sat up. He was almost completely relaxed in the presence of such a huge creature. Hunter decided to change back. He smiled and stood up, feeling happy that Hunter was still sitting on his bed. His scent was so strong. "Do you like my wolf form?" he asked. Jacob nodded and Hunter's smile widened. Acceptance was all he longed for. "I do get a bit too excited sometimes when I change. Throw me a stick and I'll be happy." Jacob had a rare sparkle to his gaze when he watched Hunter sit next to him. The werewolf sat close enough for their legs to touch and his heart thumped hard. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, enjoying each other's company before Hunter asked, "Would you like to go for a walk?" Hunter's parents arrived home at 9 in the evening. Jacob had stayed for as long as he could but eventually left at 5, giving him enough time to walk home and still make it for dinner. Hunter was sitting by the side of the house and talking to Sam on the phone. He could open a mind link between them, but it was too soon into his connection with Jacob and he couldn't bear to have someone overtaking his mate's sweet voice. But due to the fact that he was on his phone, he didn't notice that his parents had arrived home. Anthony was first to enter the house and tensed. Margot nearly walked into the back of him. She understood why he stopped. They could smell a human. "Hunter?" Anthony asked and looked around the small studio cabin. The door was open and the lights were on. His son wouldn't leave the house so late. Slowly, Anthony edged forward, listening to everything around him. Margot sniffed the air and the scent was everywhere. When they approached Hunter's room, the scent filled their nostrils. They looked at each other with worried frowns. "I can smell a human male. Do you think someone broke in?" Margot questioned and looked around. Nothing seemed to be missing or broken. There were no signs of a struggle. "That's what I was thinking." Anthony sighed. Hunter's going to be distraught. They've clearly been in his room. Their scent is all over it. Marge sighed too. "Where is he?" "He'll phone him," before she could finish. The front door opened and they both spun on their heels. Hunter had walked in after his call with Sam. "Oh hey, I didn't know you were back." He casually walked over, not batting an eyelid at the new scent. "Where have you been?" Margot asked with confusion when her son stepped around them and into his room. Why was he reacting? He could obviously smell it. It was very strong. "I was just talking to Sam outside." Hunter rubbed his eyes and grabbed the door. "I'm going to bed." And with that, he shut it before they had a chance to say anything else. Anthony looked at his wife with a deep frown. "What was that?" "Someone has clearly been in his room." He hissed. Margot tapped her chin with thought. Well, maybe it's his. The scent is from another male. It can't be his mate." Anthony spoke like it was utterly ridiculous. Although, Margot heard a small amount of uncertainty in his voice when he asked. Chapter 19. When Hunter woke the next morning, his chest throbbed with a sharp pain. He had been away from his mate for over 14 hours. His head hurt. His mood was so low. It was just out of his reach. Through the pain of bonded souls being far apart, the first thing Hunter could smell was his mate. Jacob's scent lingered densely in his room, and the werewolf knew his parents smelt it last night. That was why he was so eager to go to bed. Hunter was ready to deny his bond with a human male at all costs. He had to develop his relationship with Jacob before his parents are told. He would struggle to stay strong if they didn't accept him. Hunter climbed out of bed after aimlessly staring at the ceiling, and stretched. It was almost 7:45 a.m. and he could tell that Jacob was still asleep. It dawned on the werewolf that today was Friday and Jacob doesn't start college until 1100. Hunter's mood was pushed even further down while he yanked on some jeans and wandered out of his room, not bothering to look for a T-shirt. Margot and Anthony were sitting at the table when he approached them. He didn't have to look to know that they were analyzing him. "Have you finally smelt it then?" Anthony sighed as his son slumped into the chair. He convinced himself that surely the scent was his son's mate. How could it be? What? Hunter mumbled, rubbing his eyes as if to smudge the emotion. So they couldn't quite tell that he was in pain. The scent. It was all over your room. Your mother and I think that someone broke in yesterday. Margot watched her son with a careful gaze. He had a secret. Maybe the scent was part of it. I don't know what you're talking about. Hunter played it cool and clung on to his composure. He knew they could smell Jacob. He was fully aware that by bringing his mate home, they would get suspicious, but he needed Jacob's scent to be in his room. I think you do, Margot said and linked her fingers together. What are you hiding from us? Hunter was trying hard to keep his emotions locked away, but the key was turning without his control. You tell me. He wanted to know their thoughts. I'm sick of this, Hunter. Anthony crossed his arms with a grumpy shake to the head. You're each troubled by something. We only want to help you and you're worrying us. Their son looked down to the shiny wood of their dining table. You won't understand. Margot moved closer and rested a hand over his. We are your parents. You shouldn't feel like you have to keep anything from us. This is different. Hunter was slowly letting his guard down, but he didn't want to reveal the whole truth. There's a chance you could hate me. You've done some stupid things in the past and we still love you. Anthony was talking about his pack adventuring too far and entering the rival pack's territory. We could never hate you. Have you killed a human? What?
Hunter stared with wide eyes and only for a second.
He leaked the pain in his soul and his mother tilted her head. Of course I haven't. All right? Calm down, it was just a thought. We're all guilty of it at some point in our lives. They've got a loud mouth when they see our wolf form. Hunter ignored his comment. But it was true. If humans ever got too vocal about their existence, the wolves had to shut them up somehow. Not all of them. He mumbled. Jacob would never tell and he liked his wolf form. Warmth churned inside Hunter's heart, and it was hard to feel the love through the sorrow. They needed to be close and soon. Margot narrowed her eyes. There was something different about her son. His eyes had a different sparkle, and after all, they are the tunnel to the soul. You found your mate. She could see it now. It was his own sparkle. It was someone else's. Hunter's lungs hardened to stone. Once his mother figured something out, he could no longer lie. No, you can't deny it. I can see it in your eyes and I knew there was something different. She spoke as Anthony studied him too. He could never read people as well as his wife. She had a wonderful gift, which means you've connected with your mate too. Hunter stood up when the key turned until the box opened and his emotions rushed to the surface. The truth could no longer be hidden. Is it a rival pack member? Anthony questioned and stood up too. Is that why you think we'll hate you? I might for a bit, but obviously, I'd get over it. Hunter frowned at him and crossed his arms. Thanks for the reassurance. Anthony said when Margot nudged him. So is it no? I'd rather die than be mated with one of them. The rival pack had no morals, no sympathy, and souls made of ice. But you do have a mate, Margot added. Who is it? Hunter looked back and forth between them. Should he say it or should he wait for them to figure it out? He wasn't ready for them to know. He wasn't ready to be abandoned. It's nobody. He mumbled and turned towards his room. But Anthony jogged around the table and stood in front of him. There's another male sent in your room, Anthony said. The only person a wolf should ever share their territory with is a mate. Hunter's gaze fell to the ground while Margot joined her husband's side. Hunter, honey, it's okay. You can tell us. You hate me, he whispered. How could he dig his way out? Anthony tried to think of all the possibilities. The only logical answer was for the scent to belong to his son's mate. Never? Margot spoke with her loving angelic voice. Just say it. Hunter felt the emotions bubbling their way up his throat. Son, Anthony lifted a hand and rested it on his shoulder. He could see his stress and his sadness. His son shouldn't feel that way. Are you gay? Hunter's composure cracked, and he broke down. He cowed and held up his actony more when his gray eyes grew into a storm of sadness. I'm sorry. He let out a little whimper of distress and covered his face with his hands. I tried not to be. Anthony put an arm around his son and rested Hunter's head against his shoulder. Don't get upset, he said while Margot wrapped her arms around him too. Why didn't you tell us? Hunter felt his dad's hand rub gently against his back. Did this mean that they were okay with it? He didn't want to get his hopes up. Because I don't want you to stop loving me. He sobbed against his T-shirt. And Margot's heart ached. Why would you ever think that? Hunter lifted his head and tried to look through his tears. I'm gay. It sounded unusual out loud. I didn't think you'd accept it. And this is why you've been so distant and secretive. Anthony was still rubbing his son's back. Hunter nodded and dried his face with the back of his hand. It's been so hard, he whispered. I wanted to tell you, but you were afraid, Margot said glumly. Her poor son. And your mate, Anthony asked. H.E.S. this human male we can smell. It was odd for him to think of his son's mate as another man, but he cared more that he was human. Hunter nodded. He came over yesterday. I needed his scent in my room. Margot smiled and reached up to rest a hand on his cheek. She was much shorter than her husband and her son. Come and sit down. You need to tell us everything. Anthony patted his shoulder and guided him back over to the table. They seated themselves while Hunter's gaze caught the clock hanging on the wall behind his parents. I'm going to be late for college. It doesn't matter, his dad said and crossed his arms. This is an exception. So Hunter sat forward. Are you definitely okay with this? Yes, now tell us everything. Margot took her husband's hand and they both squeezed each other. A big part of Hunter felt lighter. It was a huge weight on his shoulders to carry such a dense secret for so long. Well, he was sure where to start. I heard him half a year ago in my head. Obviously, I knew my mate was male because his voice was so deep. I wasn't prepared for it. I didn't think I was gay until I saw him for the first time. It took me a while to get over it, and when I told my pack, a few were not happy. Only Sam was supportive and helped me, but I messed it up. How so? Anthony asked, very pleased that Sam was supporting Hunter. I didn't make friends with him until this Monday. I was too nervous and, wait. Anthony sat forward with a dark frown. You're telling me that you developed a mind link with him half a year ago and you didn't reveal yourself until this week. Hunter nodded. I know it's bad, but the bond wasn't ready. How else? That poor boy. Anthony sighed. You're lucky you hadn't driven him mad. Why would you let him suffer like that? Hunter's heart felt like it was pulled right through his ribs. I was worried she'd tell people. Margot shook her head. And this is why you should have told us as soon as you heard him. He lived with a voice in his head for half a year. Did he tell his family yes? I hate myself. Their son mumbled. I've broken him. That was a really stupid thing to do. Anthony was angry at him for being so careless. Mates are precious. When did you connect? Wednesday. How did he take it? Not well. I'm not surprised. Margot turned to her husband. We need to speak with him and straighten this mess out. What? No, Hunter frowned. It'll be fine. She's warming up to me. Don't you see? It shouldn't be like that. You've connected and he still doesn't have trust in you. That's not right. Hunter sank into his chair. I didn't see how else I was supposed to do it. Are you making him keep this a secret from his family? Hunter nodded. Anthony bit his lip to keep his voice calm. So they know that he has a voice in his head. If he tells them about this, they'll really think he has gone insane. How could you treat your mate like this? I'm really disappointed in you. A part of Hunter knew they'd see him as the bad guy. And he was. He had treated his mate poorly and needed to do everything he could to make it up to him. Does he go to college? Yes, well, you can tell him that he has other plans for today. We need to sort this out. Chapter 20. He's not awake. Hunter rested his elbow on the table and his chin on his palm. His eyes were dull, but he felt pleasantly surprised that his parents were okay with his mate. What time does he start college? Margot asked. 11. It wasn't even 9 in the morning, but Jacob was usually awake by now. Okay. Well, pick him up outside college and take him here. Hunter didn't like the sound of that. Jacob was very timid and he struggled to meet new people. They would overwhelm him for sure. Are you certain that this is the best thing to do? Well, it's not like your methods of doing things have worked so far, has it? Anthony watched his son scowl in his direction. I know a FUC. Don't you dare swear in this house. Margot hushed. And yes, it is best if we attempt to settle things for your mate. He needs to know how important this is. Jacob was woken up at 10 in the morning. He surprised himself for sleeping in so late. Jacob knew the bond might have something to do with it. Now that he knew he was going insane with the voice in his head, he somehow managed to relax at night. There was something oddly comforting about Hunter's subconscious thoughts, lingering in the back of his mind. Jacob didn't feel so alone. When he was up and dressed, he sat down for breakfast and tried hard to ignore the unbearable throbbing in his chest. Good morning. Hunter's voice boomed in his head, almost making him jump. Morning, Jacob replied. I have a bit of a problem. Jacob stopped chewing and frowned. Stott was sitting opposite, watching him from over the top of his coffee cup. What is it? My parents know about you, but it's fine. They don't hate me. Well, actually, they hate me for keeping it a secret from you for half a year. I hate you for that too. I know, and I'm sorry, but they now want you to ditch college and come to mine so they can talk to you about it. Jacob put down his toast and crossed his arms. He stared at the table, engrossing himself into the conversation. I can't ditch college. You might have to. They're very persistent. Don't worry. Nobody will know. Jacob glanced at his dad, who smiled. Are you okay, son? We need to go in 5 minutes. Scott said. Jacob nodded. How he replied to Hunter. Well, when you go to college, tell your brother that you're going to the toilet. Wait until after the bell and then come outside. They'll be waiting for you. Jacob knew that would work because William would have gone to class and his dad would have gone to work. Fine. His nerves tickled his insides when he thought about meeting Hunter's parents. Don't stress about them. I won't let them interrogate you. That didn't help. Jacob picked his toast back up and thought about what he would be missing in college. How are you feeling today? I feel horrible. Me too. Jacob's head felt like it was going to explode. His skin even felt sore and sensitive, like he was getting a fever. We'll be together soon. Come on then. Scott interrupted a conversation he held in here and shouted on William as Jacob stood up, looking around for his shoes. Hunter sat in the truck with his dad. They were parked outside the college, watching and waiting for his mate to arrive. What's his name? Anthony asked, trying to get his head around the fact that they were looking for another man. Jacob. Hunter felt a little awkward. He needed to be proud of his mate, and he was. It was just unusual to be in a position with his dad where they were finally looking for the person he was going to spend the rest of his life with. How old is he? 17. What does he study? There he is. Hunter's eyes found Jacob immediately, and his heart jumped up his throat. He had such a strong urge to run up to him and kiss his face off. Where? 𝐴𝐿𝐴ny questioned, his eyes skimming through the many students. Look. Him in the jeans and the black hoodie. Hunter pointed him out. 𝐴𝐿𝐴ny was surprised. Jacob was big-built and tall. He was handsome but lacked confidence. His head was down as he nervously gripped his bag straps. You like your men muscular, huh? 𝐴𝐿𝐴ny smirked Hunter's shoulder when a light coat of blush covered his cheeks. Making jokes was the only way for them both to stay comfortable, yes. Hunter was looking at Jacob with a longing for affection. I'm not even gonna deny it. He did like muscle and Jacob's masculinity. He liked how he had a masculine smell and a deep voice. Although which, he loved his gentle nature, his quiet personality, and his innocence. There's nothing to deny or be ashamed of, 𝐴𝐿𝐴ny said. It's unusual to see you looking at another guy like that, but you can't help who you're attracted to. Love is not a choice. Hunter smiled. He felt suddenly very thankful to have such understanding parents. I'm in the green truck. Wait for me outside college soon. Jacob turned towards the truck, spotting Hunter and someone else watching him from the front seats. He quickly diverted his gaze and followed the rush of students as they piled into the building. He looks quite, I don't know which, shy, 𝐴𝐿𝐴ny said and tapped gently on the steering wheel. He is. Actually, he's very shy, so don't expect to get a conversation out of him. Is he just like that with new people? Hunter shook his head and took a big breath to ease the pain in his body. It's just who he is. He's really quiet. But don't point it out or he'll probably have a meltdown. 𝐴𝐿𝐴ny raised his eyebrows. Really? If that fragile? He wondered why his boisterous, loud and dominant-minded son was paired with someone so quiet and timid. But like he said, Hunter can't help who he falls in love with. He doesn't have the right to question the power of lunar love. They're together for a reason, just like every mate who are brought together through the magnificent bond. To be honest, I haven't helped. He has gotten a lot worse. 𝐴𝐿𝐴ny then turned and smacked him on the side of the head. Hunter flinched, but it wasn't hard enough to really hurt. You're going to make it up to him. You were not there for him when he needed you the most. What kind of mate are you? Hunter understood that his dad would be like this for a while. 𝐴𝐿𝐴ny could be stern when he felt strongly about something. A bad one. Damn straight you are, 𝐴𝐿𝐴ny muttered. Hunter was about to roll his eyes until the college doors opened and his mate walked out. Alone, Jacob glanced around the car park. It was virtually empty. Nobody was a perfect moment for them to reconnect their bond. Stay there. I'm coming over, Hunter thought. He scrambled out of the truck while 𝐴𝐿𝐴ny watched. Jacob turned and his eyes grew bright with excitement. He had to touch the werewolf. Hunter sprinted over and his smile grew wide when he got close enough to grab Jacob's hoodie and pull him into his chest. Jacob didn't protest and wrapped his arms around him too. He buried his head into his shoulder and breathed deeply, catching his scent of fresh grass, bacon, and toothpaste. Hunter rested his face in his hair. Jacob's scent and warmth filled him with instant pleasure. Feeling better, Jacob nodded against the fabric of his T-shirt. His headache was going and his body stopped tensing. I can't describe how much I missed you. Hunter wanted the moment to last forever. 𝐴𝐿𝐴ny had tilted his head and watched with a little smile. He didn't think it would look so normal to see his son embracing a guy with such tenderness. He wanted to curse himself for thinking that way. Why wouldn't it look normal? It was just people falling in love. Jacob missed Hunter too. Though, as a witch though, he wasn't ready to admit it out loud. Come on, let's go back to mine before someone spots us. Jacob pulled away and followed Hunter to the green truck. He avoided looking at Hunter's dad because he was already nervous. Hunter opened the door and climbed in the back. His mate followed as 𝐴𝐿𝐴ny turned and watched him. Hello. His voice made Jacob jump. I'm 𝐴𝐿𝐴ny, Hunter's dad. It's great to meet you. Jacob tried to smile, but Cal didn't get words out. Knowing he would choke, stutter, and embarrass himself. As 𝐿𝐿 stared for a moment longer, Jacob noticed how he had the same majestic gray eyes as Hunter and the same black hair. When they arrived outside Hunter's family home, Margot was sitting on the wooden steps, excited to meet her son's mate. Jacob climbed out of the vehicle and waited for Hunter. He didn't know why he agreed to do something so terrifying. He was a people's person, and meeting Hunter's parents was like throwing himself headfirst into a tank of sharks. Don't worry, just be yourself. That's what I'm worried about. Hunter watched his hands fiddling with the ends of his hoodie sleeves. You're my mate. They'll like you no matter what. Hunter guided him to his mother, who grinned. Hello. She beamed and held Jacob's hands. Her glossy eyes examined him. Instantly, she felt that he was the right person for her son. Jacob could tame Hunter and be the one person to give him orders that he would truly listen to. Margot, it's lovely to meet you. What's your name? Jacob. He whispered before she squeezed his hand. Why don't you come on inside and I'll make some tea? Everyone made their way through the wood and door until Jacob stopped. He bent down to take off his shoes. Hunter hovered behind him and crossed his arms with a funny frown. I told you last time. You don't have to do that. And just like last time, Jacob ignored him and placed them neatly out of the way. He felt better about being in the house now that it was no longer new to him. Hunter followed Jacob to the table and they all sat down. Jacob pulled his sleeves over his hands and sat quietly and as still as he could, hoping to blend into the background. But he was unfortunately the center of attention. Right, now that you're here, Jacob, 𝐿𝐿 spoke. On behalf of my son, I want to apologize. He shouldn't have connected with you the way that he did. It should have been a great and exciting experience instead of what you got. Also, he should have told you who he was when you first heard his voice in your head. I'm so sorry that he put you through such a rough time. Jacob could see Hunter glaring at his dad. He could also feel his guilt. The werewolf turned to his mate, his eyes full of sorrow. I am sorry. I know you can feel it, but that's not good enough. I messed up and it hurt you, and I won't forgive myself until you can forgive me. Jacob was able to keep eye contact with him. He felt different and so did Hunter. Their bond was patchy because Jacob didn't trust him, and that's not how it was supposed to be. Feeling Hunter's sadness was a good sign. You did mess up, he mumbled, but I get it. You were afraid of the outcome like I am now. I was. Hunter moved his chair closer so their shoulders brushed against one another. You don't need to be afraid. I'm going to help you through it like I should have done in the beginning. Jacob's arm felt fuzzy and warm. I know, thank you. 𝐿𝐿 and Margot couldn't believe they were looking at their sons made human. Male and almost the polar opposite. They were excited and ready for someone special to be in their son's life. Jacob, we're sorry for making you skip college, but it's really important that you know about the roles of being an alpha's mate. You are very important to our son and his pack. Jacob felt Hunter lean against him. You don't have to do anything or say anything. Once they are finished explaining, we can sit in my room and talk openly about it. Okay. Jacob liked that idea. He felt anxious in the eyes of his parents. Okay. Hunter looked down to his mate's lap, wanting to take his hand. Jacob could hear his thoughts and shoved his hands into his pockets, regretting it almost immediately. He wanted to hold Hunter's hand too.